developments in the financial and capital market as it relates to the economy. And today is midweek, where we look at developments in the private equity and venture capital space. Today we're looking at the state of the nation, and this has to do with the prospects for more private equity investments in Nigeria. Last week, we experienced violence, carnage, destruction of properties, and that raised a lot of concerns to investors who looked at Nigeria as a leading player in the committee of frontier markets that have been viewed as the hub for investments now from global investing community. So I have Mr. Joseph Agunbiade. He's the founder of Univelcity, also and co-founder of Budgets. Most of you know Budgets, but Univelcity is also founded by Mr. Joseph. He'll be joining us to have this conversation on private equity investments. Is it really affected? What are we looking at going forward? Nice to have you on the Market Review, first time on the show.
Thank you, Ottoabasi.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. I just want to start by saying that you also saw the impact of the carnage, the destruction that occurred as we witnessed the initial 2 weeks of peaceful protests by the NSAS movement seeking for reforms in the Nigerian police force. We were going to see some response from the government, and then last week, this whole incident from Lagos to across the country in terms of interaction with your colleagues. Okay, I was asking that.
Yeah, okay. I got the question.
Okay.
So, yeah, so to start judging, based on the recent incident, it's very close. But one thing I can say for sure that, while everything was on, in the heat of it, Paystack got, acquired by Stripe in their bid to expand to Africa.
Yes.
And that for us was like, irrespective of what was happening at that time, the excitement that, we're having such a huge exit for the first time, especially in the tech space in Nigeria, was quite exciting. And so I believe that even if there was going to be a negative impact based on what has happened, that has helped us to in some way, rewrite the story. And the way it works, when investors are looking to come into a particular market, they want to look at stories of exit, stories of kind of investors who are coming into your market. So in the last 1, 2, 3 years, we've seen interest in some very interesting investors looking at our markets, throwing money at us. And then the recent announcement that Facebook said they are coming in fully officially into Nigeria. And so, irrespective of what might have happened, personally, I think there's still some level of optimism as far what we should be anticipating for, if not this quarter, maybe the first quarter of next year, in Nigeria.
So definitely that story that Stripe acquired Paystack for whooping $200 million. And of course, like you said, the Facebook plan to bring its office operations to Lagos by latest second quarter, second half of the year 2021 is indeed showing that investors are really looking at our markets. But tell us about your experience looking at this whole destruction, and how do you think we can rebuild from here to continue to boost investor confidence? Lagos is the center of the challenge, and Lagos is the hub for key investments being attracted into that. And we're hearing words. Yes.
Okay, so I read a report post-COVID where someone, I think, I can't remember now, is it McKinsey or PW? In spite of all of that, we're seeing, what I would say is that the market is 10 years. What has happened is, we started from like ground up, when the likes of CC Hub, started with their social investments. You see, the initial conversation was largely around social investments, impact, money, all those kind of things. And, we see that evolve over time. I can pinpoint almost how many startups that started out of CC Hub that today has raised venture capital those days it was really difficult. Then now imagine people who had been in the market for over 20 or 30 years, how difficult it could have been. So but what we are seeing now is a show that there's a lot of maturity in terms of investment, the way investors are looking at our market. And another thing is not just talking about outside investors, because each time we talk about investment, we're always thinking of outside investors. Local investments, we are seeing more angel investments and network. People like Tommy Davis and a couple of those people playing in that space. I see someone like Chika Mobi, who had an exit before from Tech, I think, invested in Jobberman, and a lot of those investments he has done. And a couple of these people who have had exits themselves in some ways, bringing their money back into our local markets. Even the founders of Jobberman, you see them investing in, I think one of them invested in Reliance Ichemo. They invested in a couple of tech companies, the server company, one popular server company and all that. So we are seeing that there's a lot of maturity. When you say venture capital, it's usually, not just people who want to put their money and invest their money, but people who seem to understand a particular type of industry, who seem to be interested and believe in that market. So we're not just seeing people coming in from outside, but more insiders are playing in that space. Angel networks are largely people who have exited from their own startup and all that. So it's getting interesting. That's what I would say. It's getting matured. It's getting interesting. Why Combinator now looks into Nigeria, averagely about 2 per year since Paystack got in and all that. We have people who have access directly to the Y Combinator's founders who can, do introduction. One of them is Umoye, very great guy who introduced Paystack, I think. So I think that it's getting interesting. That is one thing I will tell you, and it's getting matured. We're not there yet.
I mean, nice you mentioned Mr. Tommy Davis and Chika Modi, people that started with Tommy Davis has been very pivotal to the growth of the tech industry. He's been very passionate, coordinating and being involved in those network, and also Chika Modi, the work you do in CBO, and of course, the new role in the market. But let's look at the place of technology. You just talked about
levers for attracting private equity and venture capital investments. What is for you is a learning point from Paystack? Because that was huge. I mean, you said it rightly during the protest. This happened, and everybody said, "Look, you can imagine. These are young people. These are people that have ingenuity. These are people that are talented, innovative, and this is the value they've created." What are the broader prospects for technology, and what needs to be done in terms of infrastructure and the current plans by the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy to continue to unlock the space to attract more investments, which can spread to other sectors of the economy?
So I'll first talk about the lessons of Paystack. One of the biggest lessons is a painful lesson, which is largely for people here in Nigeria. Y Combinator for 7% got 120%, 120. Give them 120,000 for 7%, and now at the exit they are probably taking 7% of $200 million is about how much? That is like
from the calculators and get
that's
huge.
7% would be in the range of $16 billion, $15 million thereabout. I mean, that is like crazy from
16 billionaire,
in just 4 years. I mean, a lot of people
that's
putting their money in bank in Nigeria that time and have cost more than $1 million. So why do we keep keeping our money in the bank? I said that today, I'm going to mention it. So my particular challenge is to bank the guys that they were young, they were in their 30s. Atedo Petersai, all of those guys who started the banks, they were young people who right now, they just keep getting paid some fact check every year in dividends and all that. And it seems like they are taking their money abroad because I can't see what they are doing with their money. I mean, Tony Lumelu tries to do some sort of give back, but I'm sure that is like very insignificant compared to the kind of money these guys are getting. And it worries me a lot because I think they should, because they are the first beneficiary or major beneficiary of our economy here, in modern times. And I think those people should be at the forefront of this kind of angel seed investments. What Y Combinator is doing, they should see that. They should stop trying to take their money out of the country. Let's do this thing locally. Imagine $120,000 to a lot of Nigerians was nothing, but they would probably not have believed in Shola, when Paystack was starting. They said their revenue, they barely made is it $500,000, $500,000 or something, when they got into one. And so we need to wake up. It's a wake-up call to a lot of people who are keeping their money in the banks, bank founders, insurance, all the companies that are seem to be doing well. Some of them have not even exited, but they are getting paid crazy money every year. And I will tell you, I don't know this exact information. I've not verified it, but something tells me that they keep taking the money offshore. And it's a shame on them because if you make money from here, then you should use it to grow the economy by investing. And in return, a return in 4 years, $120,000 to $60 million. Where will you get that kind of money? And so people need to, we need to wake up and stop. You talk about
investor groups.
My mind is never in government. Leave government. Leave them. Because if they are really serious, why would every time Federal Ministry of Communication or NCC,
and digital economy,
NIDA, all of those guys, they are doing stuff. They sit down in Abuja and they are doing it. Meanwhile, the data does not lie. The business is happening in Lagos. You sit in Abuja, you create set of rules, you do so many things, and you make it very difficult for us to do business here in Lagos. And the real business happens here. You've got access to so many things. You come up with policy, you give yourself awards, you do all sorts. And I'm just sitting here and laugh because if we really are serious about developing our market, make ourselves more, sexy for investment, foreign direct investment, we locally must start doing the right things. We're not doing it right now. There's a lot of improvements. The new guy in NIDA seems to be doing a lot, but I don't think he has scratched the surface yet. There's a whole lot more that can be done. Infrastructure, we investors, we do the infrastructure. Policies have to be very inclusive. You have to come and talk to the real guys. I mean, you are creating policy. You've not talked to Sim Shagaya. You've not called the new guy who seems to have figured these things out. And you're talking to people who have never run business before. What are you saying? So I usually don't even want to think about them, even though they are very important. But we have to, the individuals, private, individuals who have enjoyed, who have some sort of money lying in the bank or taking it abroad or buying property that they will not live in, which, in the Bible is like a cost. You buy a property you will not live in, so take that money, put it in investment, in young startups. Look at the idea. It looks like, you should be able to think 3 years, 5 years from now and say, oh, look at the problem. And how do you even do that? It's not really a rocket science. There are a lot of people you can trust in. There's venture platform. There's a lot of instruments, investment instruments coming together now that if you don't even know what to do, you can go and talk to those people. Just dump your money with them. And I can assure you, like the proverbial Bible verse. Sorry, I'm just quoting Bible this morning. I don't know.
No,
that cast your bread upon the waters, and after many days you find. That is what will happen. People should wake up and stop keeping their money in the bank and come and invest in people, invest in young startups. Come to Yaba here. There are a lot of them being born every day. And
Nigeria, Silicon Valley.
Yes, and not just Yaba. I'm just using Yaba. There's, Ikeja, there's a lot of blocks of them everywhere. Yes. Now people are working from home. They are, you see that guy that, the SaaS guys are calling Yahoo and all that. A lot of them are, burning new ideas. I mean, sorry, I'm digressing, but you see, there's a guy called Mono. He just launched a fintech platform called Mono. And, less than 2 months after he started, he raised $500,000, in a seed. Fantastic guy. He had run a startup before. I think it was one that started Oya Pay. And he got an investment from his uncle, who, for whatever reason, when they needed to expand the business, the uncle said he cannot raise any money. He now just wants to sit down and he's thinking of all his money. He doesn't want to dilute because of ignorance. So the guy had to kill the company and went to work for Paystack. Today, the guy has started Mono. Under 2 months, he raised 500,000. And I don't know where he raised that money from. I don't want to judge because recently we've been seeing a lot of local raise. Mobola Johnson. This
former minister of ICT.
Yes, she's got this investment vehicle that
they're helping people
heavily in a lot. There's Okra, there's Mono, there's a lot of those startups. So people should see this and seize this opportunity and be part of it. Because you're going to be part of history. I don't want to make money. You're going to be part of history.
Definitely.
Wake up to this call, yes.
I think 3 things you've said are very key there.
Investor groups, particularly domestic, local, they need to take advantage of the opportunities. Where, of course, I agree is I don't know. You talked about offshore, but that's not verified. So we won't put that.
Verified.
Yes, it's not verified.
I'm not afraid.
No, definitely you can. But yes, it's not.
They are not using the money. If you are making a lot of money,
definitely.
you're a bank owner.
Yeah.
I don't think you are going to dump the money in the bank. You are not investing in people. Then what are you doing with the money?
Yeah.
Are you using raw money? So I think that's definitely.
It's very clear. Those that are doing that, they need to, because of course this year we've seen the international investigative journalism body bringing up those reports of offshore investments. Also, you talk about policy. I know that yes, government is key, because earlier in economy and policy show we talked about 5 hubs, 5 countries that have effective startup hubs, because the government has been able to develop that policy to enable them. So I believe a lot can be done from the policy side to encourage the growth of these companies, investments, attracting more investments, and helping them to scale. And these are the things that happen. I mean, the countries like Singapore, Brazil, Republic of South Korea, Israel, and yes, are doing well in that regard. So it's important that the policy side also takes note of it. And like you're aware today, the major CEOs of tech companies in the US will be appearing before the Senate to speak on regulations that may want to affect free internet in US, the freedom of the internet. Leaders like Jack Dorsey of Twitter, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, and of course Andy Supai of Google. So it's very important that we continue to engage policymakers, especially legislators, so that legislations and policies open up the space for more investments. But what are the key sectors, interaction with colleagues, that PE investors, angel investors, and various groups that you're discussing with are betting on to move forward and attract more investments? Technology, we know now, has been the major one, but what other sectors are we looking at beyond 2020?
Well, of course, the sector is fintech. Everybody has been, about fintech, and I think that we've not scratched the surface for fintech yet. In Nigeria, everything is about money. It's about cash for hand, and I think that there's still more room for a lot of fintech ideas. I had to use some public service recently, and I realized that those guys intentionally make it that you cannot pay with via POS. They will not tell you to go and use ATM. Meanwhile, the nearest ATM is about 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers away. And so you are forced to use their POS dispenser outside. Now the POS inside is not working, but there's a guy who's got POS outside that will give you cash. So you withdraw 20,000 and then they charge you 400 naira. So the guy is just there milking a lot of money. So there are a lot of gaps there. POS, both web-based POS for people who are doing selling retail, and then even for cash transactions. And there's just a whole lot of things that are possible around fintech. I play heavily in talent market, which is EdTech. I think there's a lot of opportunity in EdTech space, and I'll tell you why. Over 80% of people who apply to come and learn here are unable to afford, their programs here. And the opportunity here is that we've seen returns that is like crazy. We have someone who learned here, and under about 3 years after learning, graduating here, he makes over $80,000 working remotely. Someone that is just about 21, 22 years old. By this
$80,000.
yes, 80,000 Canadian dollars, working remotely. And this is someone that could not afford the training. Now, if he had missed the opportunity of learning, it probably would be somewhere, just roasting. And there are like tremendous talents in Nigeria. And so rather than just creating, ridiculous loan that you just want to squeeze people out and all that, there's a lot, people can give their money towards talent development and ensure that people can learn. And then in return, when these people, start making money, they pay you back. Those are some of the things we are doing at university. Decagon is doing it, Semicolon. A couple of these guys are doing it in providing access. And when you do that, so it's basically EdTech of some sort, EdTech, Fintech of some sort, invest in those kind of things. I think it will make a lot of sense. Another industry is MedTech. Sorry, I'm using tech because the only way to scale and make more money is by adding tech to this whole thing. There's no tech.
Definitely.
So
we're in the fourth industrial revolution, so it's not surprising. We're in the fourth industrial revolution driven by digital technology. So yes, I mean we can't divulge technology.
It's digital economy, and talk about quantum level transportation. So we have the medicine. People still complain. You still have to for some treatment. You still have to travel abroad and all that. I think people should start looking at investing locally. Setting up hospitals, going to meet the existing hospitals, and helping them to refinance or to finance their equipment purchase. Because these guys will make the money. You go to the hospital, there's always people trying to use either is ultrasound, MRI, all those equipment. And all of that. And the thing I just want to mention, since we're talking about PEs, is that PE is about people coming together. Private equity, people are coming together, putting their money together. Okay, people who are credible, people who are, there are people that are credible and trustworthy. And after a while, they retire and just go to their village and die. It is wrong. It is wrong. You have so much talent. You don't go and die. I'm talking to people that are watching that are thinking of just going to die, and you have a lot of talent in your head. You can help the next generation because you've got integrity and all that. You can talk to some of your friends, bring money together, and invest in companies that are struggling, hospitals, schools, and a couple of those kind of institutions. My idea of investment in Nigeria is we need to look at the things, the need of the people, the things people interact with every day that are inefficiencies. And so I can't just draw lines, say only medicine, only education, only fintech. People should start sitting down and looking at inefficiencies. Look at transportation in Lagos. It's a big mess. Big mess. I mean, under Sanwo-Olu, they've been trying to do a lot of strategy, working on fixing transportation. But I can tell you, why should we still have downfall on the road? So, but instead of complaining, these guys that own Farm Crowdy, they brought bus on the road. And I think the government also, if they are unable to, to deal with the whole bottleneck and bureaucracies that they already existed, they just created policy that made it flexible for the likes of, what's the name of their startup that Farm Crowdy has? They have buses that run on the road. Yeah. More people should look into it. Get your buses to run, Mushin to Oshodi, Surulere to Agege, all those kind of routes. Get your buses on it. So there's opportunity in transportation. Telecom is great. Big players playing there. There are smaller last mile, internet service providers that we need. So the opportunity is just so much in Nigeria. It's like it's actually not tapped. For foreign people who are watching, people in diaspora who are watching, who are thinking of where to put their money, anywhere, what you need is basically due diligence and working with people who have actually built something successful before. Bring your money together as PEs. There are companies, I mean, I wanted to really mention this. There are people who have run successful companies, but they have not been able to transition into their next generation. They are old and all of that, and the company has great potential. Rather than letting those companies die, people need to start thinking of selling their companies. There's nothing wrong with selling. I mean, you're an old man, you still company run for 20, 30 years. You'll be surprised. Somebody will pay $500,000, $1 billion for it. On $10 million, $100 million, you'll be amazed. So people need to start looking at that kind of, investment, equity investment, purchase and all that. Look at what happened to, I don't want to talk about them because I don't know so much, the Health Plus thing. It was a PE who gave them, and I believe that was
a business ownership issue, which is a legal issue now. Yeah.
Yes, you know. So, but you can see a PE coming from the UK to put in money there. Are you saying that we can't raise this kind of money locally? So we need more people to start playing rather than keeping your money that for your children that don't even know how you made it, you know, and then they will waste it after you die. Come and buy company. Buy companies, let them come and run the company, you know. And I believe that those are the kind of opportunities that we should be looking at and not just limiting it. But I think MedTech has a huge health MedTech, Fintech, EdTech, and you know, those are the areas I'm looking at. You said?
Agri-Tech.
Yes, Agri-Tech, and even very, very interesting part is there's an aspect called digital manufacturing. Look, during the lockdown, China stopped, they locked up to the world. You know, they locked the world out, and you know, they were paying attention to themselves first. We need to start manufacturing in Nigeria. I want to talk about manufacturing. It's not, forget the old days where you need to buy heavy machines and all that. You know, we have a lot of
heavy duty machines.
Yes, you know, that you can start small scale manufacturing. We have CNC machines, we have 3D printers, and we have specialized 3D printers. You know, there's a lady now who runs a startup that makes prosthetics. You know, a couple of them around now, but that lady is very, you know, her story is very outstanding, you know, and we need people to start looking at it. You don't need anything major. You can use your garage. You know, in Nigeria, what is our equivalent of garage? You know, maybe you know, your father's backyard or something. You can set up there, start your manufacturing. You know, so that is another area of investment. Today, if you give somebody $50,000, a lot of equipment, machines that they can buy, and they can start manufacturing just there and then. You know, so it is such a huge you know, industry to consider.
Definitely. I mean,
excited to hear this from you, Mr. Joseph, and talk about the garage or the backyard. Remember the story of Bill Gates using his dad's garage, and before you know it, Microsoft is a global giant. And I think just yesterday we heard Ant, the group from developed by Jack Ma, made one of the biggest IPOs in history, $39 billion US. So that shows that definitely tech is still the big thing. So this is to all our
more valuable
leaders.
than traditional companies that have been existing for like forever.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
So I mean, that Ant story is a phenomenal story. The money they are, you know, providing to the man. So, phenomenal.
Definitely. So we just to encourage all our business leaders, those that have retired and all that, like you said, should come together, support businesses and sectors to grow. Because this is what happened in US, and that's why US today, with likes of what Sequoia has done, we've seen big companies flourish from there, and even Carlyle and other private equity firms. So hopefully, we'll be able to see more of those corporations.
One small thing, in case you're rounding up. You know, you talked about like Sequoia Capital and all that. I'll talk about it at TL. Who says, drop out. If you have an great idea, drop out. I'm going to pay you salary, fund you till your idea makes sense. If funded, there's this software we're using, you know, in tech now, in product design, Figma, you know, Dylan something. You know, the guy, they kept funding the guy. There was Sketch, there was Adobe XD, a lot of those guys, but they kept funding Figma. And immediately between when the guy launched and now, under how many years? The guy was in Nigeria last year or 2 years, to let you know, very young guy in his mid-20s. You know, the guy is now a unicorn, $1 billion company. Figma software that we use is free. You can use it. Yes, Figma, young guy, he funded the guy, you know, and he's doing that to a lot of these guys, you know. And in Nigeria, you don't need to give me so much money. You don't need to give a lot of, you know, interestingly, young Nigerians don't need so much $1 billion, hundreds of millions of dollars. Start with $20,000. Start with $50,000, and don't kill them before they ash. You know, give them time, advise them. We see that they are struggling. You know, use your network, your connection to help them grow. If they are out of money and they have potential, reinvest in them. Don't try to take over the company from them before they are even started making money. You know, so those are just slight issues. Definitely. Very important.
I mean, we just take
our Nigerian business leaders, billionaires, and so they can form that strong Indian investor group, those clusters, and support more of our companies, and definitely they will scale, and that will help to boost private equity investment. Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph Agunbiade, and of course, we know the things you're doing a lot in EdTech, in Univelcity, all the best. And of course, we've seen what Budget has been doing in the public space, accountability and transparency, and there's a lot that can happen from tech to other sectors as we continue to see more of our business leaders form that cluster to support businesses to thrive. We hope to have in subsequent editions to talk about the private equity and venture capital space, particularly as we begin to prepare to round up the year and look into 2021. But thank you once again, Mr. Joseph Agunbiade, founder of Univelcity, for the time to discuss around private equity prospects and investments in Nigeria.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So for those of you that watched, if you have questions or comments or concerns around private equity investments, particularly in this state of the nation we are in, and what can happen more, you can send your views and comments to news@prochange.com. We'll be willing to receive those comments and views and questions and respond appropriately. You can also follow Mr. Joseph Agunbiade at Joseph Agunbiade on Twitter. At Joseph Agunbiade is Agunbiade. You can follow him on Twitter. He's always engaging and discussing around issues. And at Univelcity, Univelcity, not university, Univelcity, Univelcity. Also, you can follow our website, www.prochange.com. And on our website, we have on the right part of the bar, click on it, you will see private equity. Scroll, you'll see private equity. We have a lot of stories around the private equity space and in investment space and activities that have been happening, and you get further insight on it. It's been a wonderful interaction today. Hope to have another interesting one tomorrow on a market review. Till we come your way again, thank you for watching. Have a nice day and stay safe.